What happens when your body refuses to stop, but your mind has already left? What if you survived a firefight, a crash, and your own comrade shooting at you, only to realize that the real enemy wasn't the Soviets at all? This is a story about survival, but not the kind you've heard before. This is a story where the line between reality and hallucination becomes so thin, you won't know which side you're standing on until the very end. And the twist? The way this soldier survived, you will not see it coming. If you're a fan of this strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you have come to the right campfire. That's all we do here. We upload 2, 3, even 4 times every week. So if that sounds like your kind of journey, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on all notifications and join us by the fire. Now let's get into today's story. Around 10 in the morning on March 18, 1944, a 26-year-old Finnish soldier named Aimo Koivunen sat around a campfire with a group of other soldiers. They were deep inside the Arctic Circle, miles and miles of frozen wilderness. Snow several feet thick, temperatures hovering around 5 degrees below zero. Aimo was melting snow over the fire so the group could drink tea. His body ached, his muscles screamed. This was the first time they had stopped to rest in nearly 2 days. Aimo and his squadron were members of the Finnish military. At this point during World War II, Finland was allied with Nazi Germany not because they were Nazis, but because they shared a common enemy, the Soviet Union. They were in a region called Lapland land that had once belonged to Finland, but had been seized by the Soviets 4 years earlier. Now Finland wanted it back, and Germany was helping them. Aimo's mission was reconnaissance, find out what the Soviets were doing. How many were out there? Simple enough. For 2 days they had skied across the frozen landscape, searching for any sign of the enemy. And so far, nothing. For Aimo, this was a relief. He was trained for combat, but the Soviets were a larger, better-equipped force. A full-blown shootout was something he wanted to avoid. So sitting here by the fire, melting snow, feeling the warmth on his face, he allowed himself to feel grateful. The mission had been low-key, quiet. Maybe they would get through this without a single shot fired. Then the water began to boil. The unmistakable crack of machine gun fire echoed through the trees. Everyone jumped. For a split second, nobody moved. Then Aimo's lieutenant yelled, "Get your weapons, now!" They scrambled for their rifles. Aimo grabbed his and looked up toward the ridge about a quarter-mile away. What he saw made his blood run cold. A full pack of Soviet soldiers was barreling down the mountainside, straight toward them. They were firing as they came, not randomly, but directly at Aimo and his men. Aimo's mind went blank. He was the oldest of 6 children. When he enlisted, he had promised his little brothers and sisters he would come home. He would not get hurt. He would be okay. Now, watching that wave of enemy soldiers descend on them, he knew he was going to die, but his lieutenant snapped him out of it. "Go! Now! Flee!" And so they ran. Within seconds, Aimo and his men were on their skis, racing down the backside of the mountain away from the Soviets. Gunfire ripped through the trees around them. Bullets zipped past Aimo's head so close he could hear the crack of each one. He was at the front of the formation, cutting tracks in the deep snow for the others to follow. His comrades began passing him. He tried to keep up. He pushed. He begged his body to move faster, but it wouldn't. The gunfire was getting closer. Then he saw the last of his teammates ski past him, disappearing into the white abyss ahead. He was alone. His legs gave out. His skis veered sideways. He tumbled down the mountainside, rolling over and over, until he slammed into a tree. And then, nothing. Part 2, The Awakening. When Aimo woke up, it was daylight. He had no idea how much time had passed. No idea how he was still alive. The Soviets were gone. His comrades were gone. He was alone in the middle of the Arctic wilderness. But something was different. Felt hyper alert, more aware than he had ever been in his entire life. Every sound was magnified. Every movement in his peripheral vision caught his attention. It was like his senses had been turned up to 10. He took stock of his situation. His skis were still on. His boots. His equipment. His compass still clutched in his hand. His weapon was nearby. He had what he needed to survive. And miraculously, despite crashing into a tree at full speed, he felt no pain, no injuries, nothing. He stood up and scanned the horizon. About 6 or 7 miles away, he saw smoke rising from a mountainside. He recognized it immediately. It was the rendezvous point, the place his squadron was supposed to gather if they got separated. They made it, he thought. They're waiting for me. Relief flooded through him. He grabbed his gear, strapped on his skis, and started moving. As he skied, he felt a surge of energy unlike anything he had ever experienced. His legs didn't tire. His lungs didn't burn. He moved faster and faster, cutting through the snow like it wasn't even there. He got closer. He could see the tents, no, the lean-to shelters that Finnish soldiers used. He could see figures moving around the camp, his comrades. They're gonna be so surprised to see me, he thought, for they probably thought I was dead. He started calling out to them, waving his arms. He didn't want them to mistake him for a Soviet. It's me. Aimo, one of the soldiers turned, saw him, and his reaction was not what Aimo expected. The soldier grabbed his rifle and fired. Aimo couldn't believe it. It's me. I'm one of you. But the bullets kept coming. More soldiers turned, more rifles raised. Soon the entire camp was firing at him. He had no choice. He was moving too fast to stop. So he did the only thing he could. He skied straight through the middle of the camp. Bullets whizzing past his head and out the other side. He kept skiing. He could hear them shouting behind him, still firing. He didn't stop until the camp was a distant speck in the snow behind him. He slowed down, finally out of range, and he just stood there trying to understand what had just happened. Why did they shoot at me? I was wearing the same uniform, carrying the same weapon. They must have recognized me when I skied right through their camp. What happened? He had no answers. But he also realized something else. He wasn't tired. Not even a little. He'd just skied for miles, been shot at by his own comrades, and he felt like he could keep going forever. Part 3. The descent. He skied for the rest of the day, and then into the evening. His body moved on its own like a machine. His mind, though, his mind was starting to slip. He realized he hadn't eaten, hadn't drunk anything, but he wasn't hungry. He wasn't thirsty. He just kept going. When the sun went down, he forced himself to stop. He built a fire, made food, drank water. He knew he needed to rest, but when he lay down to sleep, he couldn't. He lay there wide awake, staring at the stars as the wind and snow whipped around him. The next morning, he hadn't slept a single minute, but he got up, put his skis on, and kept going. He skied for hours. His body was unstoppable. His mind, though, was starting to fragment. He couldn't keep his thoughts straight. Memories blurred together. He would look down at his hands and forget whose hands they were. But his legs kept moving, on and on, mile after mile. And then on the second night, he saw someone. It was one of his comrades. A man named Matti. Aimo's heart leaped. He got separated too. He's lost, just like me. Aimo skied toward him, waving. Matti didn't shoot. Instead, he motioned for Aimo to be quiet. He gestured for him to lie down in the snow. Aimo didn't question it. He trusted Matti. He lay down in the snow beside his friend, closed his eyes, and for the first time in what felt like forever, he slept. When he opened his eyes again, he was not lying in the snow. He was standing on his skis, moving down a mountainside. His backpack was gone. His rifle was gone. Matti was nowhere to be found. He had no idea how long he had been skiing. No idea where he was going. It was like he had gone from a sleep to full sprint without any memory in between. And that's when Aimo realized the truth. He wasn't surviving. He was dying. His mind was fragmenting. He was hallucinating. Matti wasn't real. The camp that shot at him, maybe that wasn't real either. He was losing himself out here piece by piece. And soon his body would follow. But even knowing that, he couldn't stop. His legs kept moving. His skis kept cutting through the snow. He was a machine with no off switch. If I keep going, he thought, maybe someone will find me. Maybe someone will see me before my body finally gives out. It was a long shot, a desperate hope. But it was all he had. This is where most survival stories would end, with a man lost in the wilderness, clinging to life, hoping for a miracle. But Aimo's story, it doesn't end there, because what happened next is something that medical textbooks still reference today. Something that sounds so impossible, so unbelievable, that you might not believe it unless you know the facts. Aimo Koivunen was eventually found. He was rescued. He survived. But here's the twist you didn't see coming. When rescuers found him, he had skied over 400 kilometers more than 250 miles through the frozen Arctic wilderness. He had done it alone, without food, without sleep, in sub-zero temperatures. And when they examined him, they found something in his system that explained everything. Before the mission, Aimo had been given a supply of Pervitin, a military-grade methamphetamine. It was standard issue for soldiers in the Finnish and German armies during World War II. The drug was designed to keep soldiers awake, alert and energized during long missions. Aimo had carried the entire squadron supply in his pocket. And during the chaos of the Soviet ambush, when he was tumbling down the mountain after hitting that tree, he'd swallowed the whole bottle. He had consumed a dose of methamphetamine. That should have killed the man several times over. Instead, it turned him into something that wasn't quite human. He didn't sleep for days because he couldn't. He didn't feel pain because his nervous system was flooded with chemicals that blocked it. He skied hundreds of miles without stopping because his body had been pushed far beyond its natural limits. The hallucinations, the paranoia, the camp that shot at him, the ghost of Mattia, all side effects of a mind drowning in stimulants, trying to make sense of a reality that had stopped making sense. When he was finally rescued, Aimo weighed just 94 pounds. His heart rate was dangerously high. He was hospitalized for weeks, but he survived. He went on to live a long, quiet life. He rarely spoke about what happened, but when he did, he always said the same thing. I don't remember most of it. Just the skiing, just the snow, just the feeling that if I stopped, I would die. Aimo Koivunen's story is one of the most extraordinary survival tales ever recorded. Not because he was brave, though. Not because he was skilled, though he was that too, but because it reveals something terrifying about the human body. That with the right chemicals, it can be pushed to limits we can't even imagine. That a man can ski 250 miles through frozen hell, hallucinating, starving, dying, and still keep going. But it also reveals something else, something darker. That's sometimes the thing that saves you, is the same thing that almost destroys you. If you enjoyed this story, if you want more strange, dark, and mysterious tales delivered right to your feed, then subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We've got plenty more stories to share. And as always, take care of yourselves. You never know what your body's capable of, for better or worse. See you next time.